Hello, and thank you all for joining us today for our college savings strategy session brought to you by Michigan Education Trust. My name is Erin Nicole, and I am a reporter with WXYZ Channel 7 in Detroit, and it is my honor to join you today as moderator for this online discussion. We've got a great group of folks with us, well, virtually that is, and I'll introduce them here in just a moment. They come from all walks of life. But one thing that they have in common is a belief in Michigan Education Trust and the peace of mind that comes with prepaying for college tuition. Now, it's my pleasure to introduce today's panel. Robin Lott, Executive Director of Michigan Education Trust. Heidi O'Day, Associate Vice President of Investments with O'Day Wealth Management of Raymond James in Owasso. Ingrid Clover, who purchased Met contracts for her sons Luke and Jared. Jared Clover, Ingrid's son, who graduated this spring from University of Michigan's Ross Business School. And we also have Cindy Gilbert and Burl Gilbert Jr., who purchased 10 Met contracts last year for 7 grandchildren, 2 great nieces, and 1 great nephew. Now I'd like to turn things over to Met Executive Director, Robin Lott.
Good morning, Erin. Thank you so much. So yes, we are Michigan Education Trust is the state's 529 prepaid tuition program. It's the first in the nation, actually, before we even had such a thing as 529. Started in 1988, and the goals of the program have always been to encourage families and motivate families to save for higher education. And basically with the goal in mind to help reduce student loan debt that the children will have to take out, as well as to motivate young people to further their higher education. It's changed over time. We have basically started out whereby you could only purchase 1 year of Met contract. We've modified that to 1 semester, and now you can actually start a program with just purchase of 1 credit hour. So it has evolved over time, still there, going strong. And then 529, basically, we're doing this to celebrate 529 Day. 529 is representative of the Internal Revenue Code with Section 529. So we took advantage of the fact that May 29th is 529 as another opportunity to help increase awareness among Michigan families, the benefits for saving for college. So in honor of 529 Day, we wanted to further assist and motivate folks to start learning about the program, but to also begin an account by waiving the $25 enrollment fee. If you purchase a Met contract on May 28th or May 29th, we will also provide a $100 match. So we're hoping that that will motivate folks to go ahead and get started, because that's really the hardest part, is just doing it and getting started. After that, it's very, very easy.
Absolutely. And Met's certainly been a helping hand to thousands of Michiganders through the years. How would you describe the typical contract purchaser?
Typical purchaser is a parent. The majority of our purchasers are parents, but we are seeing a steady increase in grandparents that are helping to save. So I'm a parent and a grandparent, and I also am saving in Met, as well as the other 529 program we have in Michigan Education Savings Program. And, the whole thing is, you don't have to be a parent or a grandparent. You don't have to be related to the child. Gift giving is very popular now. So family and friends can help you save for college.
Wonderful. And as we're all aware, the world has changed in many ways in the recent months with layoffs, unemployment, market changes. One big question I'm sure a lot of people are interested in knowing is right now the right time to start or step up college savings?
And that is a personal question for each family to consider. Look at that budget. Are you where you should be for emergency funds? Are you where you should be for retirement? And then third on that list should be a good close look at your savings for college education. This is a perfect time if you are in that position, because you have a little extra time on your hands. And so it's a great time to start learning about, understanding the program. There's a lot of information to soak in. And then it takes 20 minutes really to actually sit down at the computer with your information and open up an account.
Great advice. Thank you, Robin. And this match really is a fantastic opportunity for people.
Yes.
Now, I'd like to turn things over to Heidi. Heidi, you heard Robin talk a little bit about the challenging financial times that we're living in. Tell us a little bit about your work as a financial investor and your philosophy about saving for college.
I've been doing the financial investing for going on 25 years this fall. Graduated Michigan State 25 years ago, and this is the only job I've ever done. And the biggest thing that you need to do, especially with what's going on this year, is you have to stay focused. First thing you have to do is have an actual goal. And the only way that you can actually reach your goal is to have an investment plan or strategy for whether it's saving for retirement or in this situation, saving for college. For myself, I put myself through college. So when I actually got married and had children, my one example is my son, Hank. He graduated 3 years ago from Ferris State University, and I did the Michigan 529 back in the day because I knew that I didn't want him to have to be in the situation that I was with graduating from college with student debt that you are having to pay for. So luckily, all 4 years of his college education, he came out of there completely debt-free. And it's just a great feeling because so many of his friends earned so much debt from student loans. So you really just need to have a plan, stay focused with your plan so that you can reach your end goal, which is college savings for your children. And I do see a lot of more grandparents actually participating in the college savings because sometimes the parents can't afford it, but the grandparents can. So in times like this with the financial situation and the market going crazy, you just really got to stay focused, keep talking to your financial advisor and say, okay, this is our plan, this is our goal. Are we where we should be? What's the time horizon for the child to be graduating? Where is he going to be in college? And then you do college calculations. I do that all day long for people. And for us to have a couple different Michigan 529 plans is just amazing.
That's great, Heidi. And good for you. I love hearing that you practice what you preach with setting up those college savings funds. Now, I know, like you said, it's not only parents, it's a lot of grandparents. We actually have a couple of them with us today that we'll get to in just a few minutes. But, still, even with all the wonderful advice, college saving is tough. And it can be really a huge strain on so many individuals. But what other tips would you have for them?
A couple tips is obviously you have to have a plan and a strategy to achieve your goal. Everybody can have goals all day long, but if you don't have a plan on how to reach those goals, then you're not going to be able to reach the goal. The biggest thing is talk to an advisor, and you can handpick. Like with me, I'm MSU grad. My son was a Ferris State grad. You go in and you say, okay, my son's 5 years old at age 18. What is the cost going to be for college? And financial advisors like myself, we have, obviously college calculation tools that we can tell you right now, if you want to do the MET plan and you want to do the prepaid, this is what the lump sum is at age 18 to go out 4 years. Or if you need to do the multi-pay, or if you want to do the other like 529 savings plans, or you can do both, which a lot of people I see are doing both. So just see your financial advisor. Second one is a lot of people always tell me that, well, my kid's 12 years old, it's just too late, I don't need to save. It's never too late. Something is always better than nothing. Even at the end of your goal, you end up with 1 or 2 years of college savings for that child instead of 4, then that's absolutely wonderful and saving for the child. The biggest thing too is gifting. And I know Robin had mentioned that before. Anybody can gift to a child $15,000 a year. Grandparents especially, they want to adjust down their estate. Grandma and grandpa can gift $30,000 to each child if they want to. They can even do a lump sum of $150,000. They just can't contribute for the next 5 years. That's something you can go more into talking with your financial advisor in regards to the gifting, but it's gift tax free too. So that is a wonderful way for grandparents or parents, high net worth, to adjust down their estate and then be able to gift to the children also. And that can be lump sum or a multi-pay also. And then again, both we have the MI 529, and we have the MET plan for state of Michigan. Biggest thing too that I want to make sure everybody knows is either plan is wonderful, and either plan you will get 100% state tax deduction up to $10,000 married filing joint, $10,000 that you'll get a Michigan state tax deduction on just for putting into the 529. So it's absolutely just amazing.
That's very helpful. Thank you, Heidi. All right, we appreciate all of the wonderful advice. How about we hear from Ingrid Clover? She and her husband, Phil, used prepaid tuition contracts from MET to help put both their boys through college. Ingrid, tell us a little bit about your experience with MET.
Well, our experience with MET as purchasers was really positive. We knew that we wanted our children to go to college, and we wanted to make sure that they would be able to do so and come out with a minimal amount of loan debt. So we were focused, that was our goal. And once we were able to, we implemented that goal. Now, we were a family who waited until our children were in middle school to purchase the METs. It would have been nice if we could have purchased them earlier. I would have really liked that, but we were a young family starting out. So in our case, when they were in middle school, we began purchasing the METs. But the METs were really part of a three-pronged strategy for us. It was savings, it was maximizing available resources, and it was reducing college costs where we could. So I guess there's really no one right way to prepare. It's just, whatever is right for your family.
That's quite a story, and I'm sure a lot of people can relate. Perhaps sometimes they think that it's too late. Even Heidi was mentioning that it's never too late. So thank you for sharing your story. I want to know a little bit more though. Why was it so important for you and your husband to do this?
Well, it was very important, of course, that we wanted our children to go to college. And if children know when they're young that there's money set aside for college, that really goes a long way towards shaping a college-bound identity. And it really improves educational outcomes, both in high school and at the college level. So there was that. And then there was also the factor in reducing loan debt. We have seen recent graduates struggle with loan debt, and it is a heavy burden that they're walking out of school with. And we wanted to reduce that burden for our children to the greatest extent that we could.
It definitely is a heavy burden on our kids. And I think you gave some wonderful advice right there that will definitely help a lot of people. I want to know though, because college isn't cheap, do you have any saving strategy system that perhaps you could share with everyone else?
Well, we set a goal, right? And whenever we could, we budgeted, set aside money for their METs. But it was also identifying strategies to reduce college costs. Both of my children started off at a community college, and then they were able to transfer to their first choice four-year college. That went a long way toward reducing the costs. My younger son was able to take advantage of an early college. So we had virtually no out-of-pocket expenses for his first 60 college credits. That went a long way. Also, we looked at strategies to reduce non-tuition costs. For example, student housing. Neither of my children ever lived in a college dorm or residence hall. I really don't think a rock climbing wall is necessary to a college education. So if you're able to look at the background for my son Jared's room, he lives in off-campus housing. It's not opulent, but it's functional and it helps keep our costs down.
Absolutely. And speaking of your son, Jared, we'd actually like to hear from him now. Jared, what does it mean to you to hear your mom talking like this about how important it was for your parents to help you out with college savings and take that burden off your shoulder?
I mean, obviously, it really means a lot to me. It's something I'm really thankful for. I guess one thing that it really means to me is a lot of financial freedom, like really early on, once I kind of move from college and start my new career. And especially it really helps that I don't have this huge burden of debt over my shoulders or for the next 10 to 25 years for a huge portion of my adult life. And it's something that's really going to make a huge difference when I'm making a lot of key decisions that I think a lot of people kind of like overlook sometimes. And I think the 529 program is a great example of one generation that investing in the success of the next generation.
Absolutely. And I got to ask, what does it feel like to know that you've attained a degree from one of the best business schools in the country with little or no debt?
Yeah, it's really amazing. Yeah, it's really amazing. Definitely brought up a lot of opportunities to me that I maybe wouldn't have been able to do without the 529 plan, or it would have been way more, or it would have been way more expensive for me to do so. Set me up for a lot of success. Set me up for a lot of definitely opened up a lot more freedom to me, where I don't have to simply focus down on several hundred down several $1,000 7 months, several $1,000 10 to 25 years of my adult life. 10 to 25 years of my adult life.
Have you been able to witness firsthand whether or not this has made a positive impact on your life post-college yet, and perhaps compared to other classmates who are taking on debt?
It's given me a lot more freedom, and it's definitely been a huge benefit. I think one thing the University of Michigan has struggled to do is make a lot of their schools kind of accessible and affordable. So especially when you consider that a lot of students from my school are usually recruited out to cities like New York, Chicago, San Francisco, where the cost of living is usually double what it is in Ann Arbor. When you have to already set aside this huge amount of money to pay back with interest over this huge time horizon, it definitely affects your financial decisions, what you're able to afford. So not having that debt on my shoulders, it really has opened up a lot of opportunities for me, and it just kind of allows me to pursue a lot of opportunities that I probably wouldn't have been able to pursue without the 529.
Well, thank you for sharing a little bit about your story and your experience with Met. We appreciate it. Right now, we want to hear from the grandparents. You know, parents aren't the only ones who can purchase prepaid Met contracts. In fact, Robin told me earlier today that she's seen a big increase this year in the number of grandparents who are Met purchasers. And in fact, about 1/4 of all contracts purchased this year were by grandparents. Now, Cindy and Burl, I understand you received an inheritance that made and then decided to make the incredibly generous decision to help put some of your loved ones through college. Why was that so important to you?
We believe in education. Our parents, who are all deceased now, but they believed in education, wanted us to go to college. I worked and went to college, paid my way through, and when we got married a year later, that was 50 years ago, by the way. It's a long time, huh? And anyway, you know, and once you get that education, that college education, or that skill, that training, it's there forever. You get to use it forever. And when we got married, Cindy had to finish her last 2 years of college, go to grad school. We had 3 children that we paid room, board, tuition, books. And like somebody mentioned here earlier, Cindy and I started the first 2 years at our local community college, and then transferred to a 4-year college, made it a lot cheaper. And we managed to get, like I said, all 3 of our kids through room, board, tuition, books, you know, by saving money along the way and then paying out a lot. And you have to do without some things to get your kids in college. But we felt it was so important because, especially in today's job market, with the spiraling costs of college education, what are they going to be 15 years from now? You know, it's going to be, you know, really high. But if you don't have an education or a skill or a trade, your chances of getting a good job in the market as an unskilled laborer are very low. You know, it's just not happening nowadays. And if you can get out of college debt-free, so like Jared said, you know, you don't have to pay for college for the next 30 years. Those absorbent, you know, hundreds of thousands of dollars. because with interest, that's what it can cost.
Great advice. And now, Cindy, I'd like to know, was this a difficult process at all to purchase the
No,
contract?
it wasn't. I started the process with our financial advisor. I told her I wanted to use some of my inheritance to start college funds for my dad's great-grandchildren. She gave me a book, enrollment book. In that book, there's a form, two-sided form that you have to fill out. Working through that, I came up with a couple of questions. I called the Met office, and they explained my questions. One of them was, how are you going to pay? What is your payment? And the options were a lump sum, monthly purchase, or pay as you go. They explained it to me, and I felt that pay as you go would work the best for us. So I sent the checks in with the form. Probably 2 weeks, I got the receipts back along with pay as you go coupons, which has the child's name on it and account number, so that when relatives call, birthday comes up, Christmas, I can give them a coupon and we're off and running. My other question was on the waiver. I asked about the waiver processing fee. They told me that ours would be waived. And as you heard, take advantage of it now, because Robin says the waiver, the fee will be waived for a few days. So now's the time to do it.
I couldn't agree more. And we'll let Robin speak about that a little bit more in just a moment. But you know what? This has been really informative. I know for myself and everybody watching at home, we do have time for some questions. I'd like to encourage all of our Facebook viewers to reach out to family and friends. Tell them to tune in right now, because this is when your voice will be heard. We've already received a few questions from our viewers, so I'm going to read some of those right now, and then we will continue with all of the wonderful information that we're receiving here. Our first question is for Robin. Sophie from Lansing wants to know, how much do I have to pay to open a contract? That's a great question.
So sure, you first have to decide which type of contract you'd like. We have community college, limited benefits, and full benefits. The very lowest price point is the community college pay as you go. You'll only pay $125 to begin that account. And then after that, $125 is paid and you've perked, that's a 1 credit hour. Then your future contributions can be $25 minimum or more at any time you wish.
And Robin, another question I'd like you to answer. Molly asks, what if I set up our 2 young kids for Met now, and one decides to go to college, the other one doesn't? What happens to the account that the second child ends up not using?
So first of all, you could wait out that second child. Perhaps they need to take a gap year. Maybe they want to go into the military first. You know, they don't have to use it right away. They have 15 years to completely use up the contract. But let's say you waited 4 or 5 years and you decide, you know what, child's not going to college. Then you can either transfer all or a portion of it to another child in the family. Our definition of immediate family member is very broadly defined to include first cousins of the child. But maybe you don't want to do that. Then your last resort is you can cash it out and ask for, we call it a termination, and providing a refund to you of the amount you put in. And depending on how long you've had it in there, there could be some increase in value.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you. And Elizabeth wants to know, also another question for Robin. She wonders, what if my child decides to go to a trade school or culinary school? Are they able to use it then? What if they choose no education past high school? What happens to the money? So similar to the other question, but this is just one child.
Sure. So trade or technical school is an option. You would ask for a refund, and you would use that refund to pay the trade or technical school. And basically what the feds say is that if you are using a refund and you're not going to school with that refund, then you'll pay tax on the earnings of the refund, as well as a 10% penalty tax on the earnings. But if you take the refund and you use it at a trade or technical school that's a qualified institution, you won't pay tax on that distribution.
Great advice. Thank you, Robin. We have a question for Heidi now. Heidi, can you use MET at colleges outside Michigan? Great question.
Oh, great question. Yes, you can. A lot of people think that they're kind of deterred by using the MET because it's Michigan sponsored. And if that child wants to go to outside of the state of Michigan, yes, you absolutely can go. It's nationwide. You do not have to use a Michigan school. You can use a Michigan public school, private school, like what Robin had said, apprenticeship, any type of that. And you can absolutely use it for outside schools, outside of any state of Michigan. Yes.
Okay, good to know. Thank you. We have a question from one of our viewers for Jared, and they would like to know, Jared, do you think that you'll try to help your own children one day the same way that your parents did with MET?
So if I have kids, I hope by the time that they're ready to go to college, that student loans would no longer be a thing. I would have hoped that, like, as a society, we've kind of progressed past that point. But if they are, I would definitely plan to invest in a MET or 529. Just invest in that next generation and pay it forward. I think it's like one of the best things you can do.
There you go.
Good to know. All right, Robin, we have a follow-up question for you from Susan. Susan asks, what is considered immediate family? My son dropped out of high school and we need to transfer or terminate account. Any information that you can share as far as that situation goes?
Absolutely. So immediate family member includes the siblings of the child, the parents of the child, the children of the child, as well as first cousins of the child. So it's pretty broad, and you don't have to transfer the entire contract. They could divvy it up and split it up among several family members if they so desire.
The options are endless. All right, thank you. We have a question for Ingrid. Any advice for balancing daily expenses with saving for college? A lot to juggle.
Well, I guess we were following the steps that Heidi outlined. We were focused on our goal. And so we took steps that were right for our family. But again, it's about the steps that are right for your family. In our family, as I mentioned, we made a decision by saving for college. It affected the cars we drove, the house we lived in, the vacations that we took. We economized on those so we could pay ahead for their future. But again, that's what was right. And those were options that were available for our family. We used a variety of strategies. We bought lump sum MET contracts one year. Other years, we did monthly payments because that's what fit for us. Our first contract that we bought was when our oldest son was in middle school. Our last contract that we bought was when Jared was finishing up at Ross. So there are so many strategies. I think it's really important to just sit down, crunch the numbers, and find out what's right for your own family.
Thank you, Ingrid. Our next question is again for Robin. Robin, Tom is wondering, could I transition between different types of plans after an account is set up? Great question.
So within the MET, you're pretty much, I love what Ingrid just mentioned, you can purchase different types of contracts. So perhaps your strategy is, you know your child is going to attend community college. You could buy a 2-year community college contract, and you could buy a 2-year university contract, which is the full or the limited benefits. Now, once you've made that purchase, let's say you bought a community college contract for 1 year, and now you're pretty sure you want to transition it to a full benefits contract. You can't really change the contract like that, but the contract does have flexibility built in so that you could terminate that contract and direct a refund to a public university, even though you paid in at community college. So there's a lot of portability built into each of the contracts.
All right, and we have another question here from Tanae. Tanae asks, can you or should you open a MET if a student is currently enrolled in a university?
Yeah, that's a tough question. I mean, typically, it is a tough question. It really sort of depends on cash flow at that point. Do you have lump sum? You know, you could still do a pay as you go and just keep that open until you're ready to use it. But once you're ready to use it, then you can no longer contribute to it. But I still like to say it's never too late. But there are several factors you want to consider. Which college are they attending? Are they going to stay at that college? Do you have the cash flow to pay lump sum? Or your strategy could be save as much as you can with pay as you go. And guess what? Use that for the last year of college when college is going to be more expensive in their senior year at college. So a lot of strategies could happen there.
Okay, thank you. Our next question, also for Robin, Lisa wants to know, what is the difference between MET and 529?
So it's a little convoluted. MET is a 529. What we have is Section 529 of the Internal Revenue Code that provides states to implement prepaid tuition programs, investment-based direct sold programs, as well as advisor sold programs. So in the state of Michigan, we actually have all three. MET is your 529 prepaid program. MESP, or Michigan Education Savings Program, is our direct sold investment-based plan. And then MI 529 Advisor is our advisor sold program, which you have to work with a financial planner to open up that account. All three are 529 programs and allow for that tax deduction, allows for the tax-free growth, and then the tax exemption on the withdrawals as long as they're used for higher education. I hope that explains it a little bit.
I think you did. Thank you. All right, our next question for Heidi. Heidi, what kind of questions do you hear most often from your clients about saving for college?
Usually is how much am I going to need? So the very first step is, okay, well, how old is your child? Let's do a college calculation, which you got software tools there. Say they want to go to Michigan State and the child's 5, and at age 18, I tell them this is how much it's going to cost. I take in consideration the inflation, which is college inflation, which is a lot more than the normal inflation that we see. And then I give them that and say, this is what you would need if you wanted to do a lump sum or an annual or monthly payout. And then they can decide, and again, according to their financial plan, their financial situation, when they're going to be able to retire, who else can contribute into the 529. Like Robin said, we have a couple different 529s, like the advisor, the 529s, the MET. You can do a savings 529 advisor plan. You can do the MET lump sum pre-tuition. You can do both. I have clients who do absolutely both and get best of both worlds because, again, they're interchangeable. You can change the beneficiary at any time. You get the state tax deduction on either one, and you can go out of state if you need to. It just depends on how much they can save. And then at the end of the day, sometimes people say, well, that wasn't so bad. I can do the MET prepaid and then maybe do a little bit of the advisor side and then be able to cover all 4 years. Or there's some that say, okay, well, the way that I can do on an annual payment by the time he turns 18, then I'll be able to cover at least 2 full years. And a lot of people do say, okay, well, if I can stretch this money out, and the child's willing, then they can exactly, I don't know if Jared did, but a lot of kids start out at a community college and they do their 2 years and they get their associate's degree in like pre-law or whatever they're going to do. Then they transfer to a university and that saves a ton of money. That gets them away with having to do the dorm and like what some other people had already said, which is very, very expensive. Like my child at Ferris State, he lived off campus. So that saved him a ton of money also.
That seems to be one of the ways to go. Thank you so much. We have another question for Cindy and Verl Gilbert. What would you say to other grandparents about MET? They'd love to know.
Well, I would say that MET's a wonderful way of saving. And I had mentioned earlier before the program that when birthdays and Christmases come up, that instead of buying kids or teenagers a lot of toys and clothes that they really don't need, invest in MET, invest in their college education. You know, a 5-year-old's not going to appreciate it when they're 5, But when they're 18 or when they get through college and they're 30 years old and they're not paying off a huge debt, they will certainly appreciate it. So grandparents, get out there and help your grandchildren if you're financially able.
Wonderful advice. Thank you so much. Robin, we have another question for you. Courtney asks, what items do you need in hand when you get ready to open a contract online?
So when you go online to setwithmet.com, you're going to want your social security number, excuse me, the social security number for the students that you're going to save for. And if you're going to add a third party to the contract, we call that person an appointee, you'll need their social security number as well. You'll need your bank routing number as well as your account number. If you have all of those items in hand when you're at that computer, it should be a very quick and easy process for you. You will also need the code. I hope they put that on the screen though. There's a code that you'll enter for the processing fee to be waived, and that same code will also provide you the $100 match.
Okay, wonderful. Another question for you, Robin, comes from Amy. Amy wants to know, are step siblings included in those that you can transfer Met funds to?
Yes, step siblings are included. Adopted children are included as well. Thank you so much for that question. Yes.
Wonderful. All right, good. We have one more for you, Robin. Tanya wants to know, is there a penalty fee for terminating a contract?
So if you terminate the contract to not attend college, there's a $100 termination fee that comes out of the very first installment. But for the other termination provisions, let's say you're terminating it because you're going out of state or because you're going to a Michigan private college, we waive that termination fee.
Okay. And we have a couple of other questions. One of them, we have a viewer that wants to know, Jared, what are your plans now that you've graduated?
So I accepted a job offer from Google in Ann Arbor. So I'll start that in July. I'm really excited to still be involved in like the Ann Arbor tech scene after having worked for a lot of different startups. But until then, I guess I'm just probably going to be sitting poolside for a little bit, trying to relax.
Well, it's a good time to do that, that's for sure. I think we're going to take just a couple of more questions. Robin, you were mentioning the code. That code is 529-day 2020. Again, that is 529-DAY 2020.
Fantastic. Thanks so much.
We have another question for Robin. Tom would like to know, if I have two children, should I start two separate accounts? Should this be, something that people with 2, 3, 4, how many accounts do they need?
They really should start one for each child. And my theory is this: if a young person knows that their name is on an account and you're saving for them, my goodness, they know the expectation is set that they are expected to attend college, and they're going to do their best in school to try to make that happen. Some families will choose to only open one for the oldest child, and then if that child gets a full scholarship, they could transfer it to the next child, so on and so forth. But it really is, I think, advantageous for each child to have an account with their name on it. And so if you can, to that degree, I think it's a wise thing to do.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Well, I think that was all the time that we have for today. Thank you all for being a part of this discussion. I'm so happy to have been a part of it. I feel as though, I know personally it was very informative for myself, hopefully for all of our viewers at home as well, with our college savings strategy session. Now, I do want to remind you of a couple of things. That the special 529-day matching grant of $100 is only available May 28th, that's today, and tomorrow, May 29th. Your initial Met contract purchase amount, as little as $125, must be received before the matching grant is deposited. So that's very important to know. And you can make the purchase online at setwithmet.com. Also, to talk with a Met expert, call 1-800-MET-4KID. The coupon code, once again, is 529-day 2020. Coupon code 529-day 2020. And setwithmet.com with that coupon code is all you need to do. Thank you so much for joining us. This was wonderful. We appreciate it. And once again, hope that you found this very informative.